To add content to an existing category, you click onto the category name that you're wanting to add the content to. The bottom grid of the screen is where you are going to see any content that has been loaded into that category already. At this point, because we have just created this category, there is none. In order to add content to this category, now that it has been selected, you click on the Add New Content drop-down list at the bottom of the screen, and it will give you the choice of content types that you are able to insert. You are able to add an image file, a video file, or a URL to this category. Desktops and lock screens can only contain images, but your screensaver can have video files as part of the sequence as well as URLs. So we're going to start by adding image files. The image files that we are going to add for this demonstration is the desktop blood drive, the CLA intro, the cybersecurity, the screensaver blood drive, CLA intro, and cybersecurity. And when we click on open, it's going to add all of the files that I have selected. I'm also wanting to add 2 lock screens. So I'm going to add image files again. Okay, the blood drive lock screen and the cybersecurity lock screen. I also want to add a video. So now I go add video file. It does warn you that it needs to be in an MP4 video format. Click on OK. Select the video you're wanting to add. If you do receive this warning, and you more often than not will, it says 1 or more items exceed the maximum recommended size. If it says that it exceeds the maximum recommended size, you can go ahead and click on yes and it will import it. Should this message say it has exceeded the maximum allowed size, it will not import the video and you will need to reduce the size of it. The maximum allowed sizes are configured within CLA, usually with IT's approval on the maximums that they will allow. It's not a limitation in CLA itself, and if we need to increase that limit, we would be able to ask your IT and increase the limits for you. Let's added the video. The last piece of content I'm going to add is a URL. The URL that I'm going to use is this one. Copy and paste it from the browser and give it a description. How the URL works as part of a screensaver sequence, each time the screensaver loops around and it has included a URL, that URL will be updated, and the end user would then see an updated view of that URL for the number of seconds that you've specified. Right, so that's all the content added. Basically, to take you through this grid and what each column means and what you need to do with each column. The first column is the content path. If you are uploading content and you realize that you have uploaded the incorrect version of an image, so maybe there's been some tweaks made after the one that you've imported and you want to replace it with the newer one, by selecting new content, you are able then to go in, select the updated version of that image, open it, and it will replace it in this grid. The view icon is where you are able to preview your content. So if you're wanting to see what this CLA desktop looks like, the intro desktop, You click onto that little icon and it will give you a preview of what that desktop image looks like. Same thing if you're wanting to see the screensaver for cybersecurity, you would click onto the view icon and it would give you a preview of that piece of content. Your content description is the name of that item. You do not need to adjust the names before importing. You are able to import into CLA, double click into this field, and you would then be able to change the description of it. Your default duration column is the number of seconds that that item will display on the screen before it moves into the next item in the sequence. So here you would be able to define your default duration always in seconds for the amount of time that you would like it to display on the screen before changing. There isn't a specific default duration that is suggested, but you do need to bear in mind that users would need to have enough time to absorb and read the content on each piece of each image uploaded. Your content type is obviously the type of the content that you've uploaded. These first few were all images. This one was then a video. This one was then a URL. Your targeted modules is where you specify which module you're wanting or modules you're wanting to use that piece of content in. This will then, in your sequencing screen, control which images you'll see in your screensaver sequencing screen, which you'll see in your desktop screen, and which you'll see in your lock screen. Your effective from and to dates in your content library does not represent your start date and end date of your sequence. Your effective dates in your content library defines that piece of content's lifespan. So basically, how long is that piece of content valid for? If it were a very specific campaign that you were loading, perhaps it's Heritage Day or Women's Day or something that has a very definite expiry date, your dates here would make sure that nobody could use that content after the expiry of that campaign. Should it have been a more generic campaign, maybe it's your values or something around COVID that you want to be able to reuse in the future, your effective date or your lifespan could be a lot longer for that piece of content, and then you could use it up until that date. The columns that need to be defined before CLA would allow you to save this content, upload it to the CLA database, is your default duration. CLA will not allow you to save content with a 0 default duration. The other column that needs to be specified is your targeted modules. Again, CLA would not allow you to save this content if your targeted modules has not been specified. So for these first three, the targeted modules would be desktop. Your targeted module gets changed either by double clicking into the cell and ticking desktop and clicking OK. Alternatively, you are able to select multiple pieces of content and use your button at the bottom that says Change Targeted Modules. If you click on that button, it says, caution, you will change more than one item. Do you want to continue? If you click on yes, you're then able to specify desktop and it will change both that you have ticked. The screensavers, I'm just going to change in the same way by selecting the 3 screensaver images, changing targeted modules, and selecting screensaver. The 2 lock screens, I'm going to select, change targeted modules, select lock screens, and then both of these contents at the bottom, your video and your URL, are both for screensaver as well. So again, I'm just going to change my targeted modules, select screensaver. Now my targeted modules have been defined. Your default duration you change in much the same way. If I'm wanting to change the blood drive to 15 seconds, I would double click, put in my 15 seconds, and it would change just the one. If I'm wanting to change multiples, so both the intro, desktop, and screensaver, I want their durations to be 10. Change duration at the bottom. And click on OK, and it would change both of them. You'll see your video already has a duration defined. You cannot change the length of your video without changing the video itself. CLA will automatically put in the duration as the length of the video that you have uploaded. Just going to change the remainder of the duration so that we can save this. Okay, and the last one is the URL. Right, so now we have defined all of our default durations, we've defined all of our targeted modules, so the next thing we can do is save this content. If you click on Save at the bottom, it says, are you sure you want to save these items? You click on Yes. It says the items have been saved. It does now say new content imported does not automatically get added to a sequence. So basically, this is the reminder to you that by adding content into your content library does not mean that anybody is going to see it. This is just the repository. It is step one of a two-step process. If you are then wanting to set up a screensaver sequence or a desktop sequence or a lock screen sequence, you then physically have to go in and create the sequence in step two.